Hello, hello. Hope you're having a lovely day today. We are on day 3 of the Classroom Procedure series. Day 1 was all about why you should be having classroom procedures. And yesterday, day 2, was all about how you can implement them. And today is all about tips for using your classroom procedure cards because they really can work harder for you. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So drop me a hello or a hi or a wave in the comments. Let me know that you're here. And I am super excited to get started because I've got some tips that I think will be helpful for you, especially if you're going to be in the classroom this fall. I am one that is going to be back in the classroom as of right now. We don't start until about the end of August, so we'll kind of see with COVID how that goes. But as of now, I will be back in the classroom, brick and mortar. So these are something that I will be implementing here in a week or two if all plans out well. Hello, Karen. Good morning. Good morning. Drop a hi or hello. Let me know you're here. I'm so excited. If you missed days 1 or day 2, you can check them out on the lovely Commotion Facebook page under the videos tab. So there's a how and a why you should be using classroom procedures. Whoop, about dropped that over there. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So I just want to preface this by saying that you can use either pre-made cards like the ones I use, or you could definitely use your own. Okay, I see a few more people do. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning. Hello, hello. Drop a hello if you're here. So today is all about tips for your classroom procedures. So the cards that you make for your procedures that I talked about yesterday in the how-to video can be reused in multiple ways to help serve you and your students the best way they can. So I've got 8 tips for you today. So I'm excited to get started. Again, I want to preface this by saying I use these pre-made cards that I have that I had created for my class actually, but you could easily use pictures that you take of students going through the actions and putting those together and using those. Hello, good morning. So these are the ones that I'm referring to today, but please know that you can make your own. If you want to take the pictures and put them in a document and make them, or print them out at your local CVS or whatever does the printing now, that's an option too. So I just want you to know that you don't have to have these cards. You can absolutely make your own to use these tips. Okay. I ended up making them like this using clip art, because I really didn't want to remake them every year. And sometimes I feel like if I put one group of students in the pictures, I feel like I have to do the next group too, so it's reflective of them, and also just the time of it, like me taking the pictures, getting them back on my computer, putting them all in the documents. It just was time consuming. And so I can do this once and I can have these year after year. And like I showed yesterday, like I added in a new procedure. So you'll see like on the back, this was my new procedure and I didn't add more cardstock. It was the beginning of the year and I just needed it added. So I just cut apart the strip and added it in there. I like that I have those options and I don't have to wait to take pictures of the students. So that's what worked for me. But if you love using real pictures, and I love using real pictures, but I wasn't getting it done. So then of course, if I wasn't getting it done, I wasn't able to use it. So this is what worked for me. So here's some 8 tips that you can use these big strips or your pictures to work harder for you. So tip number 1, print them or shrink them down on your copier, right? So make them smaller. So I don't know if you can tell here. I'll hold them both up. Here is the difference between the sizes. So I printed these at 25% or 4 to a page. So it made these little tiny cards, but they're perfect for individual students. And so I used this one specifically, and they're not lined up very good, and my daughter laminated them, so they're just kind of, but they worked in a pinch. And so I had a student who was really struggling cleaning up, and I really liked being able to take this with me over to her instead of trying to get her to the procedure card that was hanging in the block center. I could just take this to her and show her the visual. So right before we would clean up, I knew she was going to have a hard time with it. The transition was not going well. And so I would walk over and I would say, okay, this is what's going to happen. Look, it's almost cleanup time. First, you're going to listen for the song. Then you're going to stop playing. And then we're going to put the toys back. These are the things we're going to do. And so I liked it because I could bring this to her. Also, she could carry it around if she wanted to, right? It's also helpful, like if you're out in the hallway and you're walking in a line, you obviously can't take this big old procedure strip with you. So when you shrink it down, you could take this with you and attach it to those retractable clips, or you could even put it, like if you wear an apron, put it in your apron, put it around on your I wear one of the key card things. You could hook it to that. And that way, as you're going down the line, if you have, oh, so sorry, I just shook you a whole bunch. If you have this and you have one student that is really struggling, you can just go up to them individually. Look, remember what we do when we walk in the hall? And so you have that visual with you. So I love shrinking them down. That has worked so great, right? And on that, you can also take these and create individual boards for a student. So let's say, like my little person who had trouble cleaning up the carpet area, I could take these, cut them apart, put Velcro on the back, and then have another here. I have a little, kind of like a little graphic here, like this one. So you could have like a back page, right? And so she could take them off when she did every step. And so that could help. You could also just laminate them and have her cross them off, right? Whatever works, but just by shrinking them down, you've already made them more manageable and you've made them more bite-sized for that one child. And also, just a pro tip, if you do decide to put the Velcro on the back, it might be helpful if there's quite a few steps in the procedure to put numbers on the back so you know where to put them back on when you put them back on the chart so that they can do it the next day. So shrinking them down, really, really, really helpful. Also, we have made them into a book before. So at circle time, not only are we having the strip behind me and walking through it, we're reading it as a book now. And so if I have one student in particular that is having trouble sitting at the carpet, or you kind of know this is an issue and so you want to talk about it beforehand, a book is a great way to do that. And it's the same exact pictures that they're going to see up on the wall, so it's very consistent, but you can just walk them through this. Look, we're going to listen for the Have a Seat song, and when we hear that, we're going to go find our spot, and then we do that, we're going to sit down and look and listen to the teacher, right? And we're going to keep our hands to ourselves. And you can obviously decide how many steps you want in here per that child, or how many cards you want to use. So this is a great option too. And you could even shrink it and make little bitty books that they could even carry like in their pockets or something like that. But I like this option too because it's kind of like a checklist in itself, right? Like, okay, so I did the list. Oh, I hear the song. Check, flip it. Now I'm going to find my spot. Oh, yeah, did it. So it kind of acts as its own little checklist. So that's kind of helpful too. And this is just, I just hole punch this, and this is just one of those binder rings, you know, that opens, which this one is really tough. I had a hard time with it, but that's what I made that with. So that's another really good option as well. Also, if you have, like, maybe your whole class is struggling with a procedure and you really want to talk about it, you could cut them apart. You could cut these big ones apart, right? And you can make it into a sequencing activity, and you could sequence them in the pocket chart or just down on your carpet, right? And since you're doing a whole group, you could work on moving like left to right. So you could help them see the process left to right. So you could do this as a sequence activity, maybe at circle time or whole group time. And so the whole class is doing it together, and then they're seeing this on the wall again. And so that, you know, again, that consistency of, oh yeah, that's what I do. So you could explicitly teach it through a hands-on activity and give all the students a different card maybe, or have helpers help you put them in line. So that's an option too, is using them as a sequence if you're really having, maybe some of the procedures are just not sticking. So that could be an option as well. So that's been 5 tips. Tip 6 is to make them bigger. I haven't done this yet, but I really want to. So for my This is the tiny one of it. But for my lineup, I think I'm going to make like full page ones. And each step being full page or at least half page. Because these right here are fourth a page. See that? Like each square is a fourth of a normal piece of paper. I would like to make them bigger because when they're all in line, they obviously are struggling to see. So I want to have them a little bit bigger up there so that they all can see when I'm referencing them. Normally I would have them at their level. Almost all of them I do, but my lineup one I have a little bit higher so that they can all see it while they're in line. And so we can talk about what it's going to look like to line up or to walk in the hallway. So that's a good, like this one, walking in the hallway. This is a good one to have up behind you as you're getting ready to go out the door. But I think I'm going to try to make it bigger. I'll probably do like half a page per one of these. So that's something I'm going to try, and I'm hoping it will be a little more helpful for all the kids to see when they're standing in line and we're talking about what to do in the hallway. Tip number 7 is add songs. Obviously, adding songs to anything makes it more joyful and easier for children, doesn't it? And so I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but sometimes I just come up with my own songs, you know, how we love to just make up our own songs to everything. I try to do that. I also try to give them a cue. So like, as you can see on this picture card on the screen, it says listen for the lineup song. So it knows their first step is, do I hear that? Then I go to the next step. And so like this lineup song, let me see if I can make it bigger for you, is to Where's Thumpkin? Find the line, and stand tall, We're ready for the hall, out we go. Come on, let's go. And so once they hear that, they know that it's time to line up and we're going to be going in the hallway. And it's just by adding that auditory piece really helps some of our kiddos who are auditory learners. And on that note, tip 8 is add movement. I talked about this a little bit yesterday. I had a kiddo who was struggling to go get his backpack because it's out in the hall. It's not right in front of him. And so we used visuals. So this was backpack. And so when we would go through the procedure steps, which I believe, do I have it hanging? Yeah, right here. So, well, this is the entering classroom one. This was when he was leaving, but I had a picture of a backpack. And so we would go and point to the backpack. Look, it says you've got to get your backpack. And so we would do this all the way in the hall, and that would help them, right? It's similar to like when teachers use the quiet symbol in the hallway, right? Same type of thing, adding that movement to it so that they not only are able to see it on the visual card, hear what you're saying and maybe what you're singing, and then also doing a movement with them to help them remember it if they need it. So that's another just tip that you can add in there if you are feeling like you've got some kiddos who are struggling to catch on, right? So those are my 8 tips, because I just love it when you can take something like one resource, one printable thing, and create it into many to help your students and their needs. So the one that has worked so well for me is just shrinking them down into individual size. So if nothing else, this is a great way to help individual students who might be struggling with certain tasks. So if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. I know this was a short one, but I really wanted to just show you how you can take these same cards and use them, right? And you could do this with pictures that you take too. You could import them in your computer, shrink them down in word processing, or you could even put real pictures on the copy machine and shrink them down that way. Like, there's lots of different options, but these tools they really are tools to help them be a little bit more successful in what you want them to do in the classroom. And if they know what you want them to do, then they're more likely to do it. And that's what we love, isn't it? So if you have any questions about these, let me know in the comments and I'll try to get back to them. And also, I have the link to these specific ones that I created in the description of this post. Also, just a side note, I just created some editable ones because I know that so many of our procedures are going to look different when we go back in the classroom, depending on COVID and things like that. And so I create an option where you could add your own picture and add the writing down below, and it'll match these cards. The text matches. You can add your own clip art just to make it so that you can edit it too, so that you can get what you want. Oh, Julie, yes, awesome. I can list the 8 options again. So number 1 would be to shrink them down, right? Make them smaller for individual children. And on that note, tip 2 is use those Velcro pieces. Let me pull that picture up for you again. So you can make them individual, right? They can physically take them off when they're finished with them. And these work good on these little strips too, because as a whole class, they obviously all want to take them off, but it could be something that maybe you had that as a job, right? And we did this part of the procedure, we could take it off. Number 3 is just simply laminating, crossing them off. You could put them inside a file folder. You could do whatever you wanted with them. And they can just come through and cross through them, mark through them when they're finished. That's a real simple way that they could kind of track where they are in the procedure. 4, you can make them into a book. And I like this option too. And it kind of lends itself to its own checklist, right? Every time you turn the page, I must be done with that. So I'm going to move on to the next. And you could even make these tinier. This would be, or you could make them bigger, right? You could make them really large for teaching it at a whole group, right? Reading the book as a whole group. And then number 5, you could easily make these into a sequencing activity. I would probably use the normal sized ones, and we could put them in order to help us practice that procedure as a whole group, or even in your small groups you could, right? And tip number 6, making them larger. I'm going to try that this year for my walking in the hall, this one, walking in a line, so that I can review it right before we go out the door. And so I will go ahead and I'm going to try to make these bigger, probably like double this, probably like half page, blowing them up, probably a half page is probably what I'm going to try. And that way all the kids can see it better. And you could do that for a whole group too. This sitting at the carpet one would be good too, to blow up and put behind you on your circle time, right? Or your whole group time or your carpet area. That way it can be blown up big. And add songs. We add songs to everything. So that's kind of like we just do it anyway. But it's a great tip if you hadn't thought about some of the transitions that maybe you could add a song to. And the last one is movement. So if you can add that piece of movement in, if a child is struggling to maybe grasp this, or maybe you just want to add it in from the beginning, right? Like this one has listen for the cleanup song. And what I found myself doing was listen, stop, clean it up. And so we would go through that. So she would hear it, me saying, listen, stop, clean it up. And so I would keep saying it. And even if she didn't want to look at the visuals, she had seen the visuals and we were connecting those things. And I was going through and saying it and using the motions too. So that is helpful as well. Making motions for each section so you can kind of walk specific children who are struggling with that task through it. And then obviously having the littler piece for them to be right next to them, right? You can bring it right to them. You don't have to take them to the procedure cards on the wall. You just bring this right to them. So that has been super helpful, especially, obviously teaching procedures helps my whole class run better and they know what I expect and it makes way less chaos. But it has also been very helpful for my students who are struggling to grasp some of these concepts, who are struggling with transitions. Like this has helped a lot because I can go up to them before the transition even happens and walk them through it all. And so more than anything, I think that if you do anything, shrinking them down for individual students has just been game changing because we can walk through everything and it's the same every day, right? It's a routine. It's the same thing. I'm going to come to you right before cleanup every day and we're going to say, listen for the cleanup song. Stop playing. Put your toys away. I'm going to do it every day. And eventually they're going to realize that I'm going to do it every day, right? It's an expectation of mine and that will help them get there faster. So thank you for those questions, Julie. Hi, Anne from Missouri. I'm from Missouri too. And so that's all I have for you today is those 8 tips. And I hope that they were helpful because they really have helped me. So I love to share things that help me in the classroom in order maybe to help you too. So thank you for joining me. If you have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. And next Monday, I'm going to be talking about schedules, creating schedules. I know that some of us, it looks different if you're back in the classroom or not, but like I said, we plan on being back in the classroom here where I live, and as of right now anyway, and we will kind of see how that goes. But I feel like I need to have it prepared, and I also need to kind of have a digital plan prepared too. I don't know if you feel that way too, but we doing double the work right now, trying to make sure that our children will succeed either way. So I hope you'll join me next Monday for that. It will be at noon Central Standard Time. So thanks, guys. Bye-bye.